Hello and welcome to Bouldersaurus. In this episode, I'll be climbing on some steeper terrain. There are some really interesting boulder problems in this video, so sit back, relax, and let's get climbing. You may have seen this first climb already from my mini-series Boulder Bites. This is the hardest problem in the video, and I think it's awesome. It starts with a tricky transition around a corner, requiring a full rotation of your body, before quickly moving into a precise jump. The hold I'm jumping to isn't the best, so quick footwork is required to get into position to move into the next crimp. A heel hook makes moving to the holds around the arete easier, and then a dynamic heel hook is required to establish on this foothold, which leads to a bouncy hand match crux. It's not done yet though, as you must mantle off this small handhold into two slopey gastones. Your hip flexibility is tested here, as you must get a left foot up before pressing into the upside down slopey finish hold. This climb is totally my style, and I was very excited to send it. This next climb is right next to the previous one, but is much more approachable. It contains a mix of crimps and large slopey pockets known as Wacos. While the last climb has all of its holds from a hold set known as Tokyos, the holds on this climb are much more varied. This can be challenging because unless you're familiar with the holds, it's unknown if they will be good or bad. For example, the large Waco in the middle of this climb is not as good as it looks, and requires quite a bit of tension to move through it. This climb was interesting and a great warm-up for me. A lot of folks who are unfamiliar with the sport of bouldering always ask, what happens when you fall? Well, most falls in bouldering are intentional. You know you won't make the move, you know you're tired, and you intentionally abandon the problem. However, sometimes a fall is completely unexpected and, well, just watch my right hand on this hinge.
You blew it.
Oopsie. Anyway, this climb is what I like to call the CRG Warwick special. Our head setter is a master at setting pumpy, fun, and flowy pinch problems, and this is a shining example. I liked this problem in particular because none of the moves were long or reachy, but rather you had to constantly find the right position for your body to move between the pinchy holds. Pinching is one of my weaknesses in climbing, and it's climbs like this that really help me practice strengthening the grip. The crux is at the top here, since the shape of the wall is pushing your body back, which requires you to pinch extra hard before topping out. I was debating whether or not to include this climb in the video to keep it under 8 minutes, but my friend said the holds look like those neck pillows used on airplanes, and I really liked that thought, so I left the climb in. Pay attention to the order in which I move my hands in this section. The problem has a tricky hand sequence, and I watched a lot of climbers fall because they didn't plan their movements carefully. Also, just a reminder, those gray volumes are on for all climbs, so you'll see me using them for my hands and feet. The top of this climb is surprisingly balancy, as you have to transition through these slippery, blocky holds in order to finish on the last airplane pillow hold. I mean, these are called Wacos too, but now they're going to be called airplane pillows. It's cute. What is my climbing nightmare? Well, steep overhang, really slippery holds, really burly movements, and pointy volumes at crotch level. And that's what this climb is. Despite that, I will admit, I really enjoyed working this climb, despite it being the epitome of what I don't like in climbing. I named it Bump Truck because, aside from being a really awesome name, a bump in climbing is when you move the same hand between holds in succession, and the right hand does a ton of bumping on this climb. I wasn't able to send this climb on the first day, so here we are on the second day of the reset. The climb starts with some pretty tame movement between crimps, where I use heel hook to keep my hips close to the wall. I then have to move out to the long volume and move my heel up to start the right hand bump section. The first hold is absolute garbage, so I must bump to the second hold, and then do a sketchy move up to the left hand sloper. Luckily here, I can get a left heel up and bump my left hand to a better hold. I then bump my right hand 2 more times, and these holds are not good. The top hold of the climb has a little chip on it, but I miss it on this attempt. Here I am on the top section of the boulder again, where I bump my right hand up through the holds. I hope you can get a sense from watching this how tenuous this climb is. I'm having to squeeze super hard with my back and shoulders to maintain compression. I do manage to get the good part of the top hold here, but I can't reposition the rest of my body to match it. I'll have to come back to this boulder and rethink how I approach the end, since I don't think this method will work. This climb is long. It has so many moves and calls on so many different skills, you really need to plan your moves accordingly to have enough energy for it. The climb starts with having to press yourself between the wall and volume as you move along small footholds. It's really easy to get yourself mixed up here as you have to think in 3 dimensions instead of 2. It's hard to get a sense of what the results of your actions will be. If successful, you'll find yourself established on a sloper in a crimp. From here, it's important not to let your feet swing out from the wall because the holds are not good enough to hold you. I have to do some careful heel and toe hooks as I match this volume and move up to the next crimp. Once I get the sloper, I transition my weight to the left so I can get both of my hands on it. With these large volumes as footholds, the placement of your feet isn't as important as when you have small foot chips, but you have to really pay attention to where your hips are, especially when moving out to the left here. Luckily, the last few moves on this climb aren't difficult, but you're so tired from the journey, they still feel laborious. This climb was weird. Sometimes when I do a climb, I know I've climbed it as intended. This one, I don't know. I climbed it 3 different ways and none of them felt quite right. You'll notice I have different angles in my videos. I only use one camera, so I usually climb all of these climbs at least twice. And even then, I couldn't really figure out a method that made this climb feel right. I liked how easy it was to fall off the end of the climb, given all the holds are stacked on the same axis. It was a cool climb regardless. This climb, on the other hand, felt just right. The holds were all good and comfortable, and all the moves made sense. I like how the climb starts with slopey jugs, moves into pinches, and ends with crimpy jugs. Sort of like a Neapolitan of hold types. There was a cool big compression move to this hold that led into the pinch section. The largest of the pinches had a chip screwed onto it, which made it easier to hold. Once you get to the crimps, the moves to the top of the wall are easy peasy. I think this was the best climb of the set. I'll end this video with an unusual climb that made wonderful use of the volumes on the wall. The moves often left me feeling tangled, and if I wasn't careful, I might stumble over my own legs. Unlike the last climb, all of the holds on this climb were uncomfortable. Some were sharp, some felt a little too small, some were awkward, and all of this led to a constant feeling of instability. Like many of the climbs in this set, you'll notice I use heel hooks quite a bit. These are best used when you have a large, high foot and need to keep your hips close to the wall. On overhanging terrain like this, the closer your hips are to the wall, the better your handholds will feel. As I finish this climb, I'd like to thank you very much for watching my videos. I really like replying to comments, so if you have one, please leave it on the video. I'll get super excited. That's all for today's episode. I hope you have a wonderful day.